Alrighty, folks, how we fucking feeling? It's a little late. I'm late for a very important date. What's that date? Tuesday, March 12th. Happy Tuesday to you. As previously described, I am running a little late. My name is Jimmy Selesky. I almost gave up on the show today. I got to be honest. It almost didn't happen. I spent a sizable amount of my morning editing a clip for our Instagram page. That's correct, folks. We do have an Instagram here at Live from the Studio, and you can follow us at LFTS Podcast. I'm not going to edit that in, but just pretend I did. LFTS Podcast. On everything, really, but especially Instagram. And a fun way to remember it is the LFT and S actually line up like perfectly with the name Live from the Studio. It's crazy how that works. I believe they call that an acronym, but it's a fun mnemonic device to remember. What was that? What was the name of that page? Oh yeah, LFTS Podcast. Okay, so check it out. We're posting stuff. We're on fire. I came in here a little earlier, tried to record something, and it just wasn't flying. And you might be wondering, why, Jim? I thought you were locked in. I thought you were supposed to be locked in. You couldn't do a fucking show on Tuesday? Well, I am doing a show on Tuesday. See? Do you know why? I'll give you a hint. Because I'm locked in. All right? It's not TikTok Tuesday. That's not a thing. I don't even have a TikTok. I tell you what I do have, a Twitter. And so for the first time probably ever, we're going to do a real Twitter Tuesday. We got real heavy into politics yesterday. We talked about the State of the Union address 4 days too late. We discussed the border a year too early, because that ain't getting solved anytime soon. We talked about Governor Katherine Hochul up in New York, deploying the National Guard into the New York City subways. Who cares? This isn't New York. This is Maryland. I don't know if you noticed the Old Bay vodka I'm sipping on, because it's nighttime now. I rarely record these shows anymore at night. It's a whole different vibe. Beautiful day. Got bitten by a mosquito for the first time in a year, or actually 2 years. I don't think I got bitten at all last year. That was like one of the things I walked into winter thinking, what happened to mosquitoes? I'm not complaining. Anyway, this is Old Bay Vodka. Shouts out McCormick. McCormick & Co. Spices. Doing God's work, seasoning our food, and now our vodka. Shouts out Alex Glazer for hooking me up with this exclusive product. Best directly out the bottle into your mouth, I think. Spicy. That's right, folks. We're actually going to do a real Twitter Tuesday for the first time ever. Every Tuesday I say, it's Twitter Tuesday. And then we do things that have nothing to do with Twitter. Not anymore. I'm putting my foot down. That's my fist, but I'm putting my foot down as well. You can't see it. It's off camera. And we're going to dive into how I think this should go. May I remind you, this is our first time doing this. How should we do it? What does Twitter Tuesday entail, Jim? Well, I don't know. We're going to find out together. But I think it should go a little something like this. I've bookmarked some tweets, things that have been trending today, yesterday, the past 4 weeks. And I've bookmarked them. Might I say again? Because I forgot I said it the first time. I didn't know you could do that. And so now I have compiled a large list of tweets to go through. They interested me, and hopefully they'll interest you. Let's start off a little light here. Start off a little something fun. You know? Fun, or in the words of this man, racist? Is this racist? Short answer, no. Now, for those of you who are listening to this audio, first off, thank you for listening at all. Secondly, watch the video. I'm not wearing any sleeves. And that's just one reason. I didn't even go to the gym today. Do you realize the level of confidence someone has to have to do a sleeveless podcast that no one listens to without even having gotten a pump earlier? This is my I was planning on going to the gym outfit, not my going to the gym outfit. Anyway, watch the video. Because if you were watching the video, you would know, as I put this in PIP mode to show off, that what we are looking at is what is the term now? A redskin? No, that's not it anymore. That's not a thing. Native American man. They should have stopped at Native American. That was the best one. I like that one. Then they took, American Indian. It was like redskin, then American Indian. American Indian sucked. I hate that one. That's one of the few terms that I legitimately I understand the gripe. We're not Indian, dude. You're just calling us an American version of an entirely different group of people. I see that. I see your point, natives. But then we got Native American, and that was great. But by the laws of human beings, we can't just come up with a term for people and then leave it at that and move on to more important things like actually solving any issues that may exist in society pertaining to these people. No, what we simply must do is just change what we call them every 20 years. And so then it became indigenous peoples. Don't forget the S. The S is very important. If you want to sound intelligent, you do not merely just say, one does not merely just say indigenous people. Now, you may be thinking, Jim, people is already a plural word. It's the plural of person. You have one person, two people. Why are you adding an S to the word people? And the answer is because it makes you sound like you care. That's what I've gathered. Anytime anyone talks about indigenous peoples, they always add that S in. Why? Because it makes you sound intelligent. It makes you sound like, I could stop the word here, but I care so much about these peoples that I'm willing to add a whole other unnecessary letter to take time out of my white life and give you a whole extra letter, an S, to make it a double plural. Peoples is the plural of people, which is the plural of person. And even that wasn't good enough. Because then we went to First Nation? That's a stretch. How many nations were there when we pulled up on the shore? I was going to say one. I don't know. I don't think there were any nations. I feel like we were the first nation. And when I say we, I mean Europeans. I feel like Europeans should be called First Nationers, because that is kind of what we did when we got here, right? We came to this land and we said, you know what we should do? We should establish like the First Nation here because it's 1500 and we have a bunch of nations back home and they seem to have like none here. So let's make the first one. And then we did that. You're welcome. And they said, no, we are the First Nation. Actually, they didn't say that because much like every other politically correct term, all of these terms were invented by white people. So they probably don't care. They probably prefer Native Americans. In fact, if you go to a lot of, towns in the United States where there's a high population of Native Americans, they call themselves Redskins, like their high school mascots and stuff like that. They seem to like it. I don't think anybody had a problem with it until they were told to have a problem with it, as we discussed on the Halloween Power Hour. But anyway, this man asks, this indigenous person asks, Is this racist? He's wearing a red shirt with a logo of a fake fictional football team. This is a cartoon white man, a fairly good-looking white man. I almost wish that was me. Is this racist? No. Is this lowering my self-esteem? Yes. Is that what you think white people are supposed to look like? That handsome? I think it's very flattering, actually. I thought the logo for the Washington Redskins was very flattering. It was very reverent. It looked cool. It wasn't like the Cleveland Indians logo, smiling gold-toothed Chief Wahoo. I get that. But the Washington Redskin guy, he looked awesome. This guy looks awesome. The Caucasians. Let me tell you something. Washington football team, Washington Commanders. I think you should change your name to the Washington Caucasians. I think you would double your fan base in a week. You're telling me if there were a team called the Washington Caucasians, people wouldn't love that? Here's a problem with modern society. We're so caught up in figuring out how and looking at everything through the lens of how it's bad that we often miss how great it would be if people just did shit like this. I talked about this with the Black-White Bowl that one running back, Rashawn, whatever his name is, tweeted out saying, like, you know, they need to have a black versus white football game or something. And a lot of people were outraged by this. They said, no, we can't do that. That would be bad. Why would it be bad? It all depends on how you look at it. I think shit like that's fun. You know, if you go to the basketball court in your neighborhood and there's 5 black guys and 5 white guys, I don't even like you if you don't at least make the joke, blacks versus whites. That's fun. And everybody would love watching it. That's why people love watching the World Cup. Because when you have a finals or a semifinals in the World Cup and it's between like Germany and Mexico, I'll never forget. This is like the 2010 World Cup. And the commentary was so different than every other sport you watch. Because in this game, not only are they just talking about the skill set, but these are 2 literal different like races, I guess you could call it, of people with 2 distinctly different like physical attributes. Like Germans are big, tall, strong, hulking Germans. And then you have Mexicans that are fucking quick and wily. Arriba! And both of those attributes gave them advantages and disadvantages in the game. So it was actually very interesting analysis to say, you know, like I'm listening to this commentator and one of the few times you can actually acknowledge this stuff. And he goes like, well, you know, the Germans are a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger, but you know, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if they can keep up with the footwork of the Mexican team and keep that pace up and down the field the whole game. This can be that's cool. Why? Like if you just listened to me say that and went, ugh, where is he going with this? Your head's in the wrong place. This should be fun stuff. That's pretty interesting. The Black-White Bowl will be hilarious. And you know what? I think it's the only event in the NFL that I think would be literally bigger than the Super Bowl. You heard me correctly, folks. If there were an actual organized black versus white NFL game or NBA game, which would be easier to do. The NFL game would be difficult. The NBA game would be that we could do that tomorrow. Top 5, you know, top 10 whites, top 10 blacks, whatever. Mixed guys. I heard them say Patrick Mahomes would play for the black team. No, I'm tired of that. We white people have a 50% stake in Patrick Mahomes. You don't just get to walk around and claim every mixed person, black people. Well, you know, back in the slavery times, they had the 1 drop theory. It was considered if you even had 1 drop of black blood, you were black. Okay, well, there's a lot of rules from the slavery times that we don't follow anymore. Shall I list them? Perhaps maybe ditching the rules of slavery is a good thing. So let's not cite slave era rules when it's convenient because you want Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback for the black team in the NFL Black-White Bowl. No, sorry. He's all-time QB at best. Otherwise, we flip a coin for him. That's absolute bullshit. You already have 70% of the NFL, and now you got all the mixed guys too? I mean, come on. It's not even fair. It's not even fair. I shouldn't even have to explain this. It's not fair. Anyway. As far as the Washington Caucasians goes, why don't we just make every fucking NFL team a group of people? Why not? Who cares? This is what I'm saying. Why, when you look at this, and I'm trying to put myself in the head of someone who thinks like this, how do you not see this as anything but funny? And the thing that's kind of sad about it is, I think that he thinks he is offending white people. White people, we shit on ourselves enough for everybody. We don't care about this. It's almost kind of sad. Because what it's doing is it's showing how sensitive he is. That he cares about this silly thing. And he goes, yeah, well, how would you like it if I did it to you? And we're just like, fine. I hope you do. It's a better team than the Commanders. Anyway, so that's gay. What else we got going on in here? I had a tweet of a guy being eaten alive. I lost that. This one's kind of disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. It's fake, but it's so good it doesn't look fake. This is a photo of a meat platter. This is not a real corpse, folks. It'd be awfully convenient if it was. And they managed to keep a cigarette in there through 4 years of decomposition. This is a meat platter meant to resemble Amy Winehouse's rotting corpse, served at Halloween party hosted by Neil Patrick Harris in 2011. Now, I don't say this often, but I find that to be very distasteful, and I'm not even joking. That's kind of, I don't know. That's kind of like a joke you make to your friends. But to like host like a public event and do that, I don't know. I'm not going down the road of like, oh, fuck this guy, blah, blah, blah. I just personally find that to be distasteful. I would not make that joke. I don't know. I just couldn't, I don't know. Just, it's too good. And too personal. The top comment is, this is wild AF. The person that came up with this is a complete psychopath. I don't know about complete psychopath. I just think that they just went a little too far. Well, yeah. Well done art, though. Speaking of disturbing, let's talk about torture. This is a tweet I came across. This here, this is the headline tweet. This is like the main tweet. You know how they do threads now and stuff. This is a torture device called a garrote. I don't really know how to pronounce it. Garrote. It's Indian. But this is a picture of a man who is about to be executed using the execution device called the garrote. Maybe it's garrote. That would suck if it was garrote. The garrote is an execution device that is documented to have been used in the 1st century BC Rome. So it's not Indian. This person here is Indian, so that's misleading. This torture method found its way into modern history. Okay. The condemned would sit with a metal clap wrapped around his neck. Clamp? Clap. For the record, it says clap. I think they meant clamp. Before the executioner turned the screw that would theoretically burst his brainstem, killing him instantly. Sometimes when you hear about torture devices being invented, some of these seem a little too complicated. I feel like the guillotine is probably the best one, right? Either that or hanging. Hanging is the easiest to do. And it seems to be pretty effective. So when you see these other ones, it does kind of breed a certain level of like, why are we inventing up all these crazy contraptions and like making it more of a thing than it has to be? Like, if you're going to kill the guy, just kill the guy. You know, the electric chair. I think the electric chair is the perfect amount of executioniness that I think is tolerable in modern society. The lethal injection just doesn't do it for me. Now, a lot of people don't believe there should be a death penalty at all. And that's a tough question because the justice system can be corrupt and often is. And they also can get stuff wrong. And I couldn't imagine getting condemned to death for something that either is not in any way deserving of the death penalty, much less if I was actually innocent. There's no appeals process for getting killed. I mean, you can try to appeal it as much as possible before that, but I don't know. The alternative is just you live in a jail cell the rest of your life. I'll tell you what, let me extend you an olive branch before we get back into this torture stuff. I think life should actually be life. Can we compromise there? Like, if we're not going to have the death penalty, fine. I'm not going to die on that hill. I'm not going to sit here and demand that the state be allowed to kill people. However, we obviously do agree that the state should be allowed to incarcerate people that commit crimes. What's up with murder being like 10 to 15 years? I don't get that. If we're going to get rid of the death penalty, fine. But first-degree murder, you just ended someone's life. It's hard for me to imagine any other fair penalty for that other than you being in jail for the rest of your life. That's about as close to tit for tat as you can get without, again, being actually killed by the state. 10 years for murders in some cases, it's insane. And that does happen, right? Like third-degree murder and stuff. You get 10 years. I understand it could be different for thirds. I don't know what second-degree murder is, but first-degree murder, first-degree premeditated murder, where there was no just cause whatsoever. Okay, if you first-degree murder somebody who like molested you as a kid, to be quite honest, I don't think you should go to jail at all. I think you should pay a $60 speeding ticket and have to pick up trash for 3 hours of community service. There you go. And don't let it happen again. But if you just like kill some random person for no reason, you are a fucked up person. There's something wrong with you beyond repair. And if we're not going to kill you, you should at least be permanently removed from society. The person you killed does not get a second chance at life. Neither should you. So, I mean, I don't know. I'd be willing to debate that, but I don't see anything wrong with that. Anyway, back to this device. So now this guy is got his head locked in a clamp, and they turn the screw, and I guess the screw like goes in the back of his neck while the clamp, like what? That's too complicated, guys. Just hang him. You know, the guillotine. Why did it take so long to invent the guillotine? I feel like that's the first thing that should have ever been invented. It should have gone wheel. No. Fire. Well, we didn't invent fire. We discovered fire. We invented the wheel. Wheel, chair, guillotine. How complicated is that? You cut stuff. We had tools. So like, oh, did you guys ever notice how when you cut someone's head off, they die? Okay, let's do that. What the hell are we inventing garrotes for? There's a couple more devices here. This, well, we actually got a few methods of torture. This next one is a classic. The Brazen Bull. Now, what's bugging me about this is the Brazen Bull, also known as the Bronze Bull, Sicilian Bull, or Bull of Phalaris, 3 aliases, bro, was an alleged torture and execution device designed in ancient Greece. The bull was said to be hollow and made entirely out of bronze with a door on one side. It was designed in the form of size of an actual bull and had an acoustic apparatus that converted screams into the sound of a bull. The condemned were locked inside the device and a fire was set under it, heating the metal until the person inside was roasted to death. Yikes. Now, the thing that's disappointing about this one and a lot of other ones that we're going to get to, a lot of these apparently were never actually used. They're like mythical, made-up, fictional torture devices, which is like, you got to believe it was used once. Maybe not the actual, I mean, the thing where they had like an acoustic apparatus on the front of the bull that whenever the person screamed, it made it sound like a bull. That's like a next level tier of like craftsmanship that I feel like you would have needed to have when you're really just in like constructing a metal oven to roast someone alive in. Again, I could see how these things could have been used to strike fear into the population, like threatening them with it. But I mean, what's the like they went out of their way to make it shaped like a bull though? I don't know. I'm calling bull on this one. I'm gonna go ahead and say that the actual physical brazen bull has never been used. However, obviously people have been put into a metal thing and roasted alive. That's definitely happened. Unfortunately. What else we got here? What are we looking at? Ooh. Oh my goodness. Who could forget about this one? What a great band. The Iron Maiden torture device. The assailant would be strapped down and forced to listen to heavy metal and pretend that it's good. This is, of course, what metalheads already do. The fact that it sucks is what makes it good. Torturous. No, this is, dare I say, even worse than having to listen to heavy metal. This is a big spiky closet. They should have just called it a big spiky closet. Iron Maiden's a little dramatic. I think the trick here is any torture device that is like too well crafted didn't really exist. Like, why, if you're just trying to torture someone and kill them, do you go out of your way to like make this elaborate headpiece with a screaming maiden nun or whatever? It just seems like a little too involved for just torturing somebody. Like, I believe, again, that a closet with spikes, that makes sense. That's like the third thing I'd think of if I was inventing things and ways to kill people. Repeated stabbing all at once. A lot of these are fairly simple here. It's the elaborate extravagance that goes along with them that makes them unbelievable. The Brazen Bull is believable if it's not in the shape of a bull that has an amazing acoustic contraption that converts the screams of a roasting person into the cries of a bull. It's a little rich. And the Iron Maiden is very believable when you just call it a spiky closet. Not a handcrafted metal nun. I'm sorry. Like, this is another one I'm calling bullshit on. It's probably been used. I'm going to say that one has been used 11 times. The Iron Maiden has been used 11 times. The actual physical brazen bull, for some reason, twice is coming to mind. I think that was used twice. Now this one's just horrible. This, my friends, is scaphism. Scaphism, from the Greek scaphi, meaning boat, was one of the worst and most painful skin-crawling methods of torture that was used by Persians and later by the Greeks. Really? Persians did it first? They would. Anything that sucks, I believe they did it first. Anything that rocks, I feel like the Greeks did it first. The method involved trapping a person between two boats or hollowed-out tree trunks, smearing them with honey and milk, and then leaving them to be devoured by insects. The victim would be stripped naked and placed in one of the boats. The other boat would be placed on top of them, trapping them inside. Holes would be cut in the top to allow a person's head, arms, and legs to protrude. The person would then be fed a mixture of milk and honey, which would attract insects such as flies, wasps, and ants. Over time, the insects would swarm around the inside of the person's body, eating the honey and milk, and eventually the person's flesh. The victim would be left to suffer in the boats, often for several days, until they died from a combination of starvation, dehydration, and insect bites. Charming. Now, there's one historical inaccuracy about this, and since I was there, I'll point it. Doesn't that people point out like none of us were there. There's people that are like, actually, it didn't happen like that. It's like, you don't actually know. None of us was here. By the way, fun fact, that is grammatically correct. None of us was there. It's not none of us were there. None is short for not one. Not one of us was there. None of us was there. Look it up. It's true. It sounds shitty, and I'll probably never say that again live, but I just had to get that point out. Actually, what really happened was everything they just said, except for the part where they just put milk and honey in the boat. No, what they did is they force-fed them milk and honey. The milk and honey caused them to basically just shit themselves inside the boat. And so they're just sitting and just like, roasting in their own shit, which attracts insects. And the pathogens and all the other things from your shit that you're like laying in, plus the insects that are starting to come and bacteria and blah, blah, blah. And you just get like eaten alive on the inside of the boat. It's just this like septic, gross thing going on. And I would imagine like after they pull the boat off, your body is just like, ugh. That's a horrific way to go. And again, so imaginative. Like the level that you have to get to go, dude, we're not just killing them. We're hollowing out two tree trunks. We're going to put them in between. We're going to feed him milk and honey, which is going to make him shit himself. The shit will then, seep with his naked body, causing insects to come, and the bacteria and pathogens will eat him alive from the inside out. He'll die of starvation, dehydration, and insect bites. And they're like, all right, dude, he stole a fucking loaf of bread. Can we relax? Jesus. I mean, we're going to kill him. This is 4000 BC. We're going to kill him for stealing a loaf of bread. But it's a little much, don't you think? That's scaphism. Greeks coming in strong with that one. I'm sorry, Persians. This next one, looks like it sucks, but so far of all the ones, actually, I was going to say this is the one I'd do of the 4 that I've listed so far. This one might be deceiving. At first glance, the so-called Spanish donkey may not seem menacing, but take a closer look. It was shaped like a pommel horse, like in gymnastics, but with a pointed triangular edge facing upwards. This device's shape ensured that its victims receive a gruesomely agonizing experience. The offender would be stripped of all their clothes. They love getting you naked for these. And then made it to straddle what was essentially a triangular piece of metal with a board placed over it to form a sawhorse-type shape. Often the victim would then have restraints and weights tied to their ankles in order to make the experience even more painful. Depending on how long a victim was made to sit on the Spanish donkey, they could experience anything from intense discomfort, comfort, to agonizing pain, to disfigurement and death. Now, if that was a razor-sharp thing there, that like over the course of time would just slowly cut your body in half hot dog style, that might be the worst one. But if it's just a very uncomfortable wooden ledge that you have to straddle, and I have to choose between that and being eaten alive by maggots in a puddle of my own shit floating on an open river, or being trapped in a spiky closet that's going to stab me to death, or being roasted alive in a bowl that's going to make me sound like a bull when I scream, or having my head snapped by a garrote screw in the back of my brainstem. So far, I gotta say, this one, by comparison, not so bad. Now this next one, this is just, when I said the other one didn't seem all that bad, this one, Chinese water torture, was a torture method where cold water was slowly dripping at irregular intervals on the victim's scalp or forehead. Of course, the victim was strapped and unable to move. Oh, well, you didn't say that. Because when you first started this, my only thought was, why doesn't he just move? But thank God you specified that this man has been strapped in. Now it makes sense. The irregular water drops caused fear, which led to a psychotic break of the victim in less than 24 hours. We'll see. How long do you think it would take you to go insane from somebody dropping water on your head slowly and irregularly? Please, can you at least drop the water at a consistent pace? For the love of God, I'm going insane. It's one drop, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one. Oh, and another one. Oh, my God. Oh, the humanity. I'm sure this sucks. But so far, may I remind you, we have being stabbed to death in a spiky closet, being roasted alive in a metal bowl, being forced to soak in your own shit and be eaten alive by bugs, sitting on a wooden ledge that may or may not cut you in half hot dog style. And then, of course, water dripping on your head. Oh my God. Say it ain't so. I think I would take this one. I don't even see how this would kill you. I don't think it does kill you. I think this is just a torture method. I don't know. Maybe if you sit under the thing for like 146 years, it will eventually erode through your skull, and now you just, maybe that'll happen, but you'll have died of natural causes by the time that happens. So that one's interesting. Good work, Chinese people. And then, of course, we have just being stomped to death by an elephant. Nothing much to say about that. The animals were trained to kill victims immediately or to torture them slowly over a prolonged period. Damn. And elephants apparently find human beings cute. Elephants exhibit the same like brain waves and emotions when they see a human being as we do when we see like a puppy. They think we're cute, which is nice. But they can also be trained to kill and dismember us. So, damn. And let's take a look here. As we move away from torture, something more lighthearted, something... Jeez. I don't normally pull up fights on these. But this one actually raises a good point. So let's watch it first. Leg kicks. Oh. Bow. Damn. Now, besides that being sick, the caption of this post is, should leg kicks be allowed in street fights? Short answer, duh. You know the type of person I hate? I hate stand back up type of person. If you're in a fight, I've never really been in a real street fight. I've had plenty of like, I've boxed, I wrestled, I've been in tussles. I used to like do like MMA stuff with my friends and shit where we are punching and kicking and all that stuff, but not really a real street fight. I think the first rule of a street fight is don't get in a street fight. And if you can do that, you'll go far. Don't be a pussy. But, do everything you can to avoid getting in a street fight, folks. But I do hate this, what do you even call it? This kind of weird thought that people have that it should be a boxing match. Like, when somebody falls down, you got to look, if you want to let him back up, that's your prerogative. But the idea that, like, when somebody falls to the ground when you're fighting and then let him back up. Let him back up. Let him back up. No, why? Do they do that in the UFC? Do they do that in war? Like, what is this? Is this street fight sponsored by the World Boxing Association? This isn't a boxing match. This isn't street boxing. This isn't bare knuckle boxing. This is a fight. This person and I have a legitimate disagreement over something, I would imagine. And we're trying to beat one another up. That means if I have to punch you, kick you, smack you, elbow you, knee you, slam you to the ground, choke you, I would venture to say that everything goes in a street fight short of permanently like crippling someone. If you knock somebody out, it should be over. You shouldn't be stomping on the head and all this shit you see all the time. If somebody knocked out unconscious, it's over. Gouging someone's eyes out. What's the fight about, dude? Did they smack your girl's ass? Did they throw a drink on you? Do you need to gouge a guy's eyes out? Is that what we need to do here? You fucking pirate. Just beat the guy up. I get it. There's limits in a fight. Again, it depends on what the fight is. Is the guy trying to mug you? Do whatever you got to do. Rip his nuts off. Bite his nose off. Gouge his eyes out. Stick a finger in his ass. Whatever you got to do. That's a life or death situation. A life or death situation. But the idea that somebody who is trained in the art of fighting, in this case, it looks like Muay Thai, using these leg kicks and whatever, and that person should not be allowed to utilize those skills in a real, legitimate street fight is insane to me. And most people agree with this in the comments. There's a couple people that say real men let their hands do the talking. Those guys are wrong. Punching is, I guess, using your hands to fight is like the first thing, the most intuitive thing to do if you're in a fight. You throw your hands around. Most people don't even know how to fucking punch. You look at people punching. Then you have grappling. Kicking is like, if you can effectively kick, here's another word of advice. If you get into a street fight with somebody and they exhibit the ability to actually kick well, like effectively kick, unless you really, really believe that you are a truly gifted fighter, or this is something that you just have no other choice, you need to fight this guy, I cannot recommend enough de-escalating the situation. Because you should be allowed to kick. And if you can kick, holy shit. Is there anything cooler than knocking somebody out with a head kick? And the idea that if this guy were to do that people say, nah, he cheated. Oh, I cheated. I just lifted my leg above this guy's head and knocked it back down on his face, knocking him out before he even laid a hand on me. I didn't even use my hands. I literally could have won this fight with both hands tied behind my back because I kicked you in the face and knocked you out. And your contention is, I cheated. If I wrestle you and grab you to the ground and choke you out, your contention is, I cheated? No. My contention is, I won. So to answer that question, grow up. A fight is a fight. Anything goes to a limit. But that, of course, includes any type of hand-to-hand combat skills that you could use. No weapons, but everything else is in the clear. Folks, I don't know what the fuck this was, other than the fact that it's Twitter Tuesday. This show's coming out a little too late to do any Rook looks. I did, just for the record, pick the Sacramento Kings. There was an MGM boost, 33% NBA boost for the Sacramento Kings this evening versus the Bucks. I took Kings plus 1.5. We'll see how that's going. That game may or may not have already started. We did lose both of our picks last night, unfortunately. Santa Clara did not cover plus 11.5 versus St. Mary's, and San Francisco did not cover plus 9.5 versus Gonzaga, although that was much closer. But that's like the first two things we've lost in like a week. We're still 8.4 units up. We're still sitting about 19.1% positive net yield after 44 bets. So we're looking groovy. Outside of that, folks, happy Tuesday to you. I'm glad I decided to get this show in regardless of how much it sucks. And till tomorrow, we'll get back to business. Until then, peace.